All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Primal King podcast. Today, I have somebody who I'm super excited for, had the pleasure of knowing for the last few years. So he's one of the most compelling stories that I've heard before. He's been in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, ESPN, Fox Sports, NBC, as well as stages and events all over the country. Also, he's won a Super Bowl as a member of the New England Patriots. He's the author of the best-selling book, Winning After the Game, How to Win in Your Life, no matter who you are or what you've been through. He's a committed father, husband, coach, mentor, consultant. He's the Reverend of the Revolution and one of the most influential and motivational speakers in the world, Mr. Setema Gali. How you doing?
Great to be here. Look, with an introduction like that, my goodness, we need some smoke and fog machines. And, over. Give me the sparkler.
Oh man, so again, so happy to have you here. Like I said at the opening, one of the most compelling stories that I know of, one of the nicest, most genuine people that I've met, and I truly believe that. I know you're a real guy. All your social media stuff is always so positive and uplifting and everything else, but I know it hasn't kind of always been that way. I know there's been some times that you've gone through in order to get here. So I guess just to start with, if you wouldn't mind, because I know a lot of people are like, a Super Bowl champion, how awesome is that? What was that like, I guess, to start there? Because I know that some other stuff happened after that, but what was it like just to be a that was like my dream when I was a 5-year-old kid, right? Like I always wanted to go to the NFL and win a Super Bowl. Obviously I didn't, you did. So yeah, like what was that like?
Man, no words can express and explain how amazing it was. You know, your whole life, like you said, right? I'm going to play football. You get to college and you're in college and you get to the NFL, but not only the NFL, with the Patriots, we keep winning. And when we beat the Steelers in the AFC Championship game at Heinz Field, it was 2002, right? January 2002. When we beat them, I mean, we were like, you talk about some crazy, you know, we're grown men and we're like, work out. I mean, dudes are hugging and it was amazing. We get on the flight the next day. So we got home and we left the next day, like boom, off to New Orleans. And the whole week was, one of the greatest experiences because it's the Super Bowl. But when you have worked your whole life, right? Everything you do is to go win the championship. This is the ultimate, right? This is the ultimate championship. I'm crying, inspired, moved, touched. Dudes just tearing up, just emotional. Thank you, Lord, like for allowing me to be here. So it was an amazing experience. And of course, we're double-digit underdogs and to the greatest show on turf, and we beat them. Like we won that thing, right? Adam Vinatieri kicks the field goal. So I'll tell you, Derek, it was one of the greatest experiences. And I do believe, even though, you know, most people will never play sports, you have your own Super Bowls. You have your own things to win. You have your own things in your relationships and in your business and in your personal life to win. So Super Bowl is just unreal, man. Incredible.
I remember watching that. It was my first year of going to college. I remember watching that game. And, you know, it was like, there's no way this Tom Brady, whoever he is, and like the Patriots, there's no way they're going to beat the Rams. Now, obviously, knowing Belichick the way that I've been able to follow him through the years, like I'm sure like that had to have been his whole pitch to you guys, right? Like nobody respects us. No one's going to take us serious. Like, was that kind of like the pitch, I guess, you guys were getting?
Belichick is the master of mind games.
Yeah.
I mean, any bulletin board material, anything that they say, I mean, he uses race horses. He uses other sports. He uses war analogies. I mean, he knows the game of how to get a team motivated and ready to go to war. And I remember he uses all kinds of things. Like I remember one of the Super Bowls, I think it was the Eagles one. He was like, he's like, well, it might have been ours where he was like, they've already got the parade route planned out. You know, they're already planning the parade. You know, he'd say that. He's like, yeah, they're already planning their Super Bowl parade. And I mean, he just knew how to light the fire, right? He just knew how to like get under dudes. And so master motivator, master like mindset, and just this high level of performance. that's Belichick. And, you know, it's no surprise, right? 6 Super Bowls out of 9 since he's been there in his tenure in New England. And I love him. Like I would take a bullet for the guy. Like, that's how loyal, that's how much I love that dude. Even though I was only there for a short time, incredible culture. And, you know, the speed of every team is the speed of its leader. And there's no, you know, Bob Kraft, Bill Belichick, there's a reason the Patriots are in the hunt every year.
Oh yeah, for sure. So moving on, like, to what you do now, how much do you draw back, like, to someone like Belichick? Because obviously you're out there inspiring people, doing coaching and speaking and coaching and all these different things. Do you draw on much of what Belichick kind of maybe taught you from the mindset side of it? Or was that more just kind of football and being young and not really realizing what he was doing as far as kind of that mental Jedi stuff that I'm sure he was?
No,
he was
man, I use that today a lot, you know, because it's like you said something like I'm out inspiring people, but, you know, I do inspire like when I go speak, but really my mission is to help people to produce results. Like, it's results. And most people are delusional about their, what we would call a default future, right? They're delusional. Like, you're eating like crap. You're not showing up like full speed in the job. You're an absent husband or father. You're lazy. You sit on your phone. You waste 2 hours a day on your phone looking at social media. Like, people are delusional. They somehow think I'm doing the work, and they're really not. So, you know, do I rely on what I learned from Belichick? Absolutely. I heard him say, "Do your job 100 times a day. Do your job," and he grilled that into us. And so, even with my clients today, yeah, I inspire people, but like, let's be real. Like, I'm nice and kind to my friends. So any of my clients, I'm not there to be their friend. I'm there to help them be who they need to be so they can do what they need to do and what's required so they can get the results they want in their life, and not being delusional about their future. Because most people today, let's be real, like, most people guaranteed they waste time on social media. They don't really eat that great. They are addicted to some kind of something, even if it's just drama. And so what I get to do today is I rely on what like Belichick wins. Like, my clients win. That's how do we win? By getting the results they want to get.
That's awesome. So how old were you when you won the Super Bowl?
What was I? 20, 26? 26 years old. Yeah.
So young guy. I mean, obviously,
yeah,
like
mid-20s.
really.
Yeah, young. This is my rookie year. And I was only there in the NFL for 2 years. And NFL stands for not for long. You know, not that long of a career. Like, it's a brutal sport. Like, it is, you know, basketball is a contact sport. Football is a collision sport. And when, you know, I'm a 285-pound guy running full speed at a quarterback when he's standing, they can't see me, and I'm supposed to put my face mask in his back at full force and dig and thrust the hips and bah! And then running backs. I mean, it's a brutal sport. So
just a car wreck over and over and over, right?
Every day, man. Every day.
So at like 26 years old, you win the Super Bowl, literally like the pinnacle of sports, right? Because football is the biggest sport in our country, far and away the biggest. TV show is NFL games. So you're like at the height of that, but obviously, like, you're still just getting started in life. So after you won that, was there like is this as good as it gets, or was it more like, you know, because I've just seen so many stories of people who they go through these big, massive successes, and then they almost get depressed because they're like, I've reached the mountaintop. Where else do I go? So was there any of that in football or?
No, for life? Me, it really was. So my second year, my good back injury, you know, everyone in football is injured. Everyone's got something. So I come home a second year. My agent, I had the same agent as Tom Brady. I'm like, okay, cool. He's like, you want to go back out? I'm like, yeah, let me give it one more shot. So go out in 2003 for OTAs, and like, I'm done. Like, one practice and I'm done. So I'm like, I'm done. Like, let's go have a final physical. So I fly to Alabama, do this physical out there, and I'm sitting in Alabama. I don't have that much money. You know, money's spent, and I don't have a car because I'm down there. I just flew down there, you know, the NFL. So I go to the bookstore, and I was like, what do I do with my life? Like, now what? Like, when you're in college and in football, everything's football. You don't need to worry about it. I don't know. I didn't know how to do a resume. I never had a job before except the NFL. So I go get this book, and one of my buddies was like, hey, you need to read this book. It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I go buy the book, and I read it 3 times in 3 days. I just couldn't put it down. I'm like, oh my gosh, assets and liabilities and real estate. And this is what rich people do. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. So I finally get home. I have a buddy who's doing mortgages and he shows me this $30,000 check. I'm like, bro, was that last year? And he's like, that was last week, man, last month. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? So I jump into mortgages, have no clue what that is. I'm like, oh, it's you help people buy homes. And the rest of 2003, from like May to December, I just kind of piddled around. Well, didn't take it serious, just was kind of a bum. And then when January 2004 rolled around, I made up my mind. I was like, I was meant to do more. I'm not supposed to be suffering like this. I got a Super Bowl ring. I'm a Super Bowl world champion. I was a BYU graduate, a captain. So I set some big goals in 2004. I'm like, I'm gonna go crush it. I'm gonna go like crush six figures in my real full first year of mortgages, and I did. Killed it, man. Like just dominated. Like it's all the principles that people know. But here's the cool thing, right? 2004 goes by. 2005, a double down. 2006, I get married. Double down. We built a brand new home. Got cars. Got properties everywhere, and extremely unfulfilled and unhappy. Not that money was amazing, but my soul was empty. I was like, there's something more that I'm supposed to be doing with my life, not just doing mortgages. And nothing against mortgage people. Like my heart was calling me to do something else. And so, I had always wanted to be a coach and a speaker, kind of like a Tony Robbins, a Zig Ziglar, a Stephen Covey, an author. And so I started down that path. So I walk away. I do my very own first event in May of 2007. Like 30 people show up, I charge them, have no idea what I'm doing. I just go teach for a day. And then the market begins to implode, as you know, right? And we got hammered, bro. We got crushed. We lost everything. We had properties across the country, millions and millions and millions of dollars in debt. Our cars got repossessed. Our homes were foreclosed on. We got booted out of our home. And it was a hard time, man. And I say that on the podcast, like, oh, we lost everything, but people don't know, like, we went from a 6,000 square foot home. We had built an 8,000 square foot home. We had homes all over the country and properties. And then we ended up in this 900 square foot townhome after we had moved a few times and we sold and we sold and we just kept selling everything. And one day, Derek, we're in this 900 square foot town, and we're late on rent every month. God bless the landlord. Like, he was so patient with us. My father-in-law bought us a car. Like, we didn't have any money. No, we go from $500,000 worth of vehicles to my father-in-law buys us a car.
Wow.
And I remember the day my kids were pouring milk into their cereal, and they were over pouring they're kids. They just pour milk, and the cereal comes out, and the milk gets wasted. And I was yelling at them. I was like, "What are you doing? We're wasting the milk. What the hell are you?" And I was like, I saw myself like, what are you doing? Oh, because they're wasting milk because you're so poor, because you're so broke. And we were late on the rent, and we were late on the cell phone bills. And my wife's like, what are we going to do? And there's only one thing I had of value, and that was my Super Bowl ring. And I knew what I needed to do. And Derek, it was hard, man. Like, we had sold pretty much everything. So I get online. I find this collector in New York City. I still keep in touch with this guy too. Like, I'm like, you still got my ring? He's like, oh yeah, he has a lot of rings. So my wife drives me to the airport. I'm bawling my eyes out. I'm crying. I'm snotting myself. I'm just like, how did I get here? God, what did I do to deserve this? Well, don't let this happen. I cannot get rid of my ring. And I sold my ring. I got to New York. I cried all the way there. I cried all the way back. But I had an envelope of cash. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go start a business. And cash was gone. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was trying to be a coach like I am. I was trying to be this marketer. I was copying other people. And yeah, I mean, that was a dark time, man. And that was 2009, 2010, filed a bankruptcy. Like, I just couldn't do it. My phone was blowing up, had all this debt. I was like, how am I going to get out of millions and millions of debt? So we BK'd, drew the line in the sand, stepped beyond it. We're like, hey, let's go build. And that takes us up to that point, Derek. And it was, I tell you, it was, and there were times where I'd sit in my garage like, man, maybe I should just like turn my cars on. Like, suicidal thoughts, it's depressing. And for about 4 years, I couldn't do anything that worked. Nothing. Like nothing worked. I was exposed. I didn't have real skills. I didn't know. I kind of forgot who I was. And those 4 years of, there's like 4, 5, 6, 7, just killing it, right? Like just money was awesome. And then tail end of 7, 8, 9, 10 into 11, 4 years of just getting our butts kicked, man.
Wow. So
Yeah.
what was the process like for your wife? Because obviously you get married, you're making all this money. I assume that she's looking at you thinking life is great, and then all of a sudden it's all gone.
Oh, she was
And
loving it, man. Like she was loving it. We had brand new cars, and money was not an issue. Um, like it wasn't an issue. It was
yeah,
great. We traveled first class. We'd stay at the nicest hotels. We'd pick up the bills for everyone. And even my wife's very grounded. She's like, "Hey, do you think we're going to lose everything?" I was like, "What are you talking about? Don't say that."
that's a negative mindset, right?
Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about? Do you think God's going to take it away? Don't say that. And if he does, we'll just make it back.
Yeah.
And, when you're rolling on success, it's easy to kind of forget, right? That there's no guarantee except what you do. So yeah, my wife is amazing. I would tell the listeners, man, you make sure you marry who you marry. Probably one of the, if not the most important decision, because your spouse, when I was struggling and she never came on me and she's like, you need to go get a job. Never said that. Because I was trying to do the entrepreneurial thing. She supported me. I would cry at night on her. I'm like, what are we doing? And she was just there by my side, like the whole time. But we sold her wedding ring. And I remember in 2012, once we had got back on our feet, like, dude, I went and bought her, brand new ring, big fat diamond, and just so grateful, man. Grateful for my wife. So no doubt about it. Probably the greatest decision was the woman that I married. It's made all the difference in the world.
Yeah, I totally agree, because my wife's been the same way, ups, downs, in betweens.
Yeah.
Always been super supportive. So if there is someone out there listening that is single, or maybe they're dating somebody, because, and I totally agree when you said it's one of the most, if not the most important decision of your life is the person who you're spending every day with, right? What advice, or maybe what experience could you pull from you when you were maybe courting your wife or dating your wife into the marriage side of it? Could you give somebody to maybe help them understand whether or not that is the right person for them?
Yeah, great. Look, when you go date, right, you're dating so you can figure out what you like, what you don't like. And whoever you're dating, the same thing for them. And I always knew this, like principle 4 in our 13 principles says clarity is power. And I was clear that I was not going to get married to get divorced. Like I did not want that. I saw my parents get a divorce and was going to tore us up. I'm like, and so the gift out of my parents' divorce is like, I'm getting married once. So I'm going to make sure whoever I marry, like I'm not going to be looking around. She ain't going to be looking around. Like we're going to like be so loyal and fiercely dedicated. And I dated a lot. I made sure it's like Baskin Robbins 31 flavors. I was like, I'm going to go check out the 100 flavors out there. I'm going to date because I wanted to be sure. And that's what I would say is I married my best friend. I would take girls out, come home, and I'd call her. And I'd call her all the time. And she lived in St. Louis. I was in Utah. I married my best friend because, look, after a while, like and my wife, for me, most beautiful woman. I love her. She is my everything. And even to this day, when I leave the house, I call her right away. I'm like, hey, what's up? And we just talk. When I'm going to the airport, I land. I'm like, what's up, babe? What you doing? I was like, I just landed. And we talk late at night. Like, she's my best friend. And when guys are like, dude, let's go take a boys trip to Cabo. I'm like, nah, man. I'm like, I want to be with my wife. Like, that's my homie. She's my best friend. She's the love. Like, I love her. So my advice for people out there, if you're still single, measure twice, cut once. Like, make sure, you're going to be like, when you get married, you're waking up next to this person. You're waking up next to them. You're in bed with them. Like the good, the bad, you get pregnant, or you're going to have this guy's baby, if you're a woman or a man. And like, you want to be sure, and then just be so loyal. And I'm so clear. I truly believe, Derek, that it's pride and ego that just destroys marriages. We still have our disagreements, but I'm like, that's not what I'm cool, man. I don't need to be right. If
Yeah.
I'm right, I don't care. I'm wrong, even if I'm right. I don't care. Like my wife is right. I'm good with that. And we have such a great relationship. We live in agreements. She's my best friend. Like I'm the love of my life. Like I could just spend all my time with her. I love her.
Did you know her for a long time before you guys got married?
Great question, man. We met in 2000, and then we were best friends for 4.5 years.
Oh, wow.
So while I was dating, while I was in the NFL, like I was dating different girlfriends. She was my best friend. So I'd call her up, and if she ever came to town, I'd tell whatever girls I was dating, I'm like, hey, my best friend's coming to town. So I'm gonna spend some time with her, and then we'll catch up when she leaves. Like, okay, cool. And I was very respectful of her. Like I knew that the relationship I had with her was special, really, really special. And I'd get jealous. I mean, because dudes would take her out, dudes would fly her out and to, where it's to California when she was in Missouri. And she had her, she calls them sponsors. She had her own sponsors. I have my own girlfriend, but at the end of the day, like I always knew where she was. And I mean, like best friends, man, 4.5 years. So when we got married, like people talk about that first year of marriage being hard. I'm like, it was easy.
Yeah.
It's like, this is like, I know who this is. And I wanted to make sure that when I got married, I was like, I would have this certain knowledge, like a knowing of there's no one else out there. There will always be beautiful girls. There will always be younger girls. There will always be girls with this and that. But I'm like, that's how life is. So I want to grow old with my wife. I still get excited when I talk to her. I still get excited when she calls me. I still get excited when we hold hands. Like it's just awesome. And that's what I wanted.
It's perfect. That's perfect. So you go through all of this stuff. You get married, you have it all, you lose it all, and then you start building it back. But what was your mindset like? Because I know that especially for guys, and I think competitive guys, and I know you're competitive, you're a football guy, I'm competitive. And I mean, there's some ego that goes into failure, right? Or maybe it really
Yeah.
is hard, I think, for kind of, I don't know if you want to say alpha males, but you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
athletes, people who succeed in business or in life and then they fail, like that's a hard thing to swallow. So like, how did you kind of pick it all up, put it back together and like go, I know you started knocking doors, right? All that type of stuff.
Yep.
I mean,
I'll
that'll
tell
get your
you,
ego too, right? When you're
dude.
going from making a bunch of money to knocking on someone's door, like that had to have been some pride that you had to swallow, right?
A lot, man. So in the first couple of years in 2007, 2000, even in 2009, I'm like, dude, I got this. Oh, we're almost there. We're almost there. So I was buying these courses and going to seminars. I'm like, I got this. We're going to get out. In 2010, we filed bankruptcy. And then into 2011, I was super overweight, super depressed. Just like maybe my best days are behind me. Like maybe that's it. And so my mindset went from like, we can do this to like, can we do this to, I don't know anymore. And a guy, he tried to recruit me for a couple of years and bless his heart. Like I thank Heavenly Father, thank God that this guy didn't give up on recruiting me because he recruited me to knock doors. And I was afraid. I'm like, dude, what if I suck? What if I fail? I mean, I got to go knock doors. I'm a grown man with 2 kids. I'm in my mid 30s. I mean, I can knock doors, door to door sales. Are you kidding me? And when he finally recruited me, we sat down in March of 2011. And then he had my wife. And so he was the master of recruiting. So we sat at the Happy Sumo place, the sushi, shares it with me, not over the top. He's like, you can kill it. And he said, his question that got me was, how much money do you need to make over the next, 4.5 months for this thing to be worth this, for you to come do it? And I'm like, 100. If I could make 100 grand, he's like, you could do that. I'll show you how. I'm like, in 4 months, knocking doors as a door-to-door salesman. So I go watch one of his meetings. I meet the guys, and then he's like, bring your wife to my house. Take my wife to his house. Man, it's fat, big old $1 million home, brand new cars. And this dude's in his late 20s. So he had climbed out on the doors. And then my wife's like, you can do this. And man, Derek, I'm telling you, we were so broke, man. I was so afraid. My confidence was at like an all-time low. I wasn't even sure if I could do this. But like you said earlier, right? We're athletes. We're competitive dudes. So when I saw a sale done, I was like, huh, I can do this. And my guy said, this is what you got to sell. This is how to do it. If you'll do the work, you'll make the money. And he's like, go bring some guys with you, go recruit. So I recruited a bunch of dudes to come with me that first summer, fly out to South Carolina. The rest is history, man. I worked harder. Ain't nobody outworked me. I drank Red Bull every freaking day. I studied in the morning. I studied at night. I role played. I was so damn hungry, man. And people talk like, oh, I want it more. I was like, no, you don't want it. I'd wake up at 6 a.m. and for 2 hours, I would be studying the manual. And from 8 to 9, I'd cook and I'd be listening to the training. Then I'd role play. I'd come home at night, get home about 10:30. I'd role play till midnight every day because I just knew the difference between me and the masters who were killing it was time. They had time and experience. I'm like, so how do I collapse that? So I started early up, late to bed. Sunday, everyone would go. I'd go to church. I'd come home and I'd just study and I'd practice and role play. And I hit up all the top. So, I mean, I was the most humble student because I was the most hungry dude because I had a wife and kids. And I knew like this was it. Like, I was like, this is it. Like, I got to do this for my family. And my wife, she drove out and she was out there with our 2 young kids in Georgia. And we spent the summer out there, and it was just 6 days a week of grinding, man, selling door to door. And there's not a day that goes by, no exaggeration. There's not a day that goes by where I don't think of one of the neighborhoods that I knocked in. I knocked 2011, 2012, 2013, Texas, Georgia, South Carolina, Iowa, New Mexico, SoCal. I mean, we knocked all over. And I'm telling you, that was a game changer for me, man. Pulled us out, and nobody worked harder. So that's why I tell people, look, if you are on the bottom, if you have lost everything, like financially, your confidence is at a low, you don't manifest and attract that. Like that language sounds, it's like, whatever. Like it's not my language. It's like you go grind. You roll your sleeves up, you get back in the trenches, and even if you have to go get a freaking job, like that was 100% commission. So if I didn't sell, I didn't eat. And I learned how to work again. So I'm telling guys today, like, quit falling for all these scams. Like, like if I wanted to learn sales, like phone sales, I'd come to you and I'd be like, Derek, I will do whatever you tell me to do. Tell me to do it, I will do it. And I would learn from you, and I would take notes, and I'd listen, and that's how I would do it. You go find the mentors who are doing it, and you follow them. And so I learned from the door-to-door guys, and I mastered this thing, and I learned how to recruit, and I had a big team, and had overrides, and it was amazing, man. Yeah,
so you're going through all of that, and you're getting back on your feet. But I know you said like 07, 08, you started having like this dream of being a coach and a consultant.
Yeah.
Were you fulfilled within this because you're building teams and you're training? Was that fulfilling in and of itself?
No, I went to, it's Vivint, right? I went there, and the goal, I went in with a 5-year plan because my recruiter told me, he's like, give me 5 years. And he's like, this will prepare you to do what you want to do. No, that's kind of the last thing that hooked me. He's like, this will prepare you to be a speaker and a trainer. Best recruiter in the world. I took him on it, and he was right. So I had this 5-year plan. I'm like, at the end of 5 years, we'll reevaluate. We made a great ton of money. And after the 3rd summer, I was like, okay. And I finally surrendered. I was like, okay, God, I guess this is my thing. So be it. Like, I'll just be a door-to-door guy. And I'm sitting in Bakersfield, California, here in SoCal. Bakersfield's like, I don't know, 2 hours north of here. And I was in my car, and man, I got that feeling that I was very familiar with that said, it's time to move. It's time to move on. I was like, are you kidding me? I got residual. I got money. I got a team. I'm going to kill it this next year. Like, I'm going to kill it. And, like, I'll tell you, like in 3 summers it did, like, we grossed like $750,000, man. Like, we killed it in 3 summers. So we're out of the red into the black. And I'm like, about going into year 4, and I call it the voice, right? That voice, that feeling that, what is God or the universe, everyone has a different, I call it the voice. And the voice was like, it's time. And that was on October 2013, like 6 years ago, man. 6 years ago.
Not very long ago.
No, not long ago. So I'm in my Scion. I have a little Scion box car. I call my wife. I'm like, I think I'm not gonna do this anymore. She's like, what? No, 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 no. You doing this? And this is what the big difference was. I hired not one, not two, but I hired 3 coaches. I knew to go build a coaching business. So whatever business you want to build, there's the slow way, and then there's the sure way. The sure way is typically faster, not because there's these special hacks and tips, but because you have a mentor and a coach and someone who's doing it. Like I said, again, if I was going to learn how to be a high ticket closer, I'd come to you, or I'd go to someone else and I'd be like, teach me, show me. And I'd pay you the money, and I would work I would do whatever, because that's what I did. So I hired 3 coaches. I hired a coach in October, hired a coach in December, hired another coach in January. And it was a lot of money. And my wife, she's crying. She's like, don't do this. She's like,
We finally have it back. We're doing good.
And you're going to try to go do this coaching thing again when we failed? And I was like, I looked at her and I was like, I got this. Just trust me. I got this. And sure enough, man, like, I didn't make any money for like 7 months. And it was funny. It was like May 2014. I had made $0. So we're out about $80,000 for coaching. And, we're living on savings, and I'm practicing, and I'm trying. And my wife's like, I guess we're going to go knock doors again. That's cool. Drained our savings account for this coaching thing. And I was like, and the cool thing was, and from May to December, like, we killed it. It was like 3 times the money I'd made that I had invested, 3 times over, right? I started getting clients. I started doing coaching, started doing events, made the move to Southern Cal to work with the guy. And then we split ways. And then in 2016, I started over again because I was not working with him anymore. And so I'm in like year 4 officially on my own. And I mean, dude, we'll do so well this year. I got a great team. Like, our team is awesome. I got my assistant. I got our sales guy. I got my chief marketing officer. I just brought on a CEO. I got a couple contractors that were hired. I mean, it's amazing, man. And I just attributed a lot of it to, number 1, having my wife who stuck by my side. Number 2, being so damn committed, man. People talk about commitment today, like, oh, I'm committed. I'm like, nah, you ain't committed. Because commitment for us, it means I will do whatever is necessary and required. Not about doing your best. It's not about doing all you know. It's about doing what's required. And I have my mentors and coaches. I still have coaches. So they guide me and help me build my business. And, life is so good. Like, here we are. I speak on big stages. I've spoken on stages next to guys like Gary Vee, Damon John, same stages as Tony Robbins and Grant Cardone. I spoke on the Russell Brunson stage, ClickFunnels. I mean, there's big stages I'm on. And more than that, I have my own stages, and we have our own events. And I'm doing what I feel called to do. And I'm just, every day I wake up and my feet hit my carpet in my bedroom, and my heart just praises to God. I'm like, man, I'm doing it. Like, we're so fortunate. I do feel blessed, and we've worked our butts off. And it's hard. Like, this is not easy. Like, I don't want anyone to think, oh, he made it. Like, anything of value you're gonna face resistance and opposition. Here we are, my man. Like, coaching, we got clients, we got events. It's amazing. I love what I do.
That's so cool. It's so cool because I think I first met you when you were just fresh out on your own, and over the past couple of years where you've taken it to. Something you said, though, that's absolutely fascinating to me is when people are like, well, I did my best. And it's like, well, you might have done your best, but you didn't do what's required. I would imagine doing what you do, having clients, doing consulting and all of that, you probably get guys who are like, well, Setema, I'm doing my best. So
yeah, I'll speak to that. I tell people, like, doing your best is for kids. I was like, are you a kid? Are you a child? Like, I want my kids to do their best. That's how our kids win. They do their best. That's all they can do. But when you become an adult, it's about doing what's required. It's about doing what's necessary and required. And most people don't. They deceive themselves into thinking they're doing the work. What's one of the biggest things that will kill your progress and kill your dreams is when you deceive yourself into thinking that you're doing what's required when you ain't even close. You aren't even in the ballpark. This is why every entrepreneur, business owner, they must have a coach. Like that you need someone that can help you see the blind spots and call you out. Like I don't, clients, I'm like, you don't have to like me. That's nice if you do, but you don't need to like me for me to help you. It doesn't matter if I'm a good husband or father. All those things are irrelevant. The only thing that matters is if I can truly help you, if you're committed. And I tell people all the time, if you're not doing what's required, there's no way you're going to get what's desired. So you do what's required. And then in order to do what's required, do you have the necessary required skills? Do you have the necessary required information? Do you have the necessary required tools? Do you have the necessary required way of being? Or are you weak? And there's a lot of dudes who know that they got the knowledge, they got the skills, they got the tools, but who they're being, like they'll get their butts handed to them. So that I love that necessary required actions, necessary required skills. That's big, and the reality is, I hear in our line of work, we're doing all we can, we're doing all we know. I'm like, dude, it's not about doing what you know. It's not about doing your best. It's about you're either doing what's required or you are not. And if you are, guarantee you have the highest chance to produce the result.
I love that because I again, like coming from similar backgrounds and stuff, you hear so many times, I'm doing my best, coach, or, even I coach, high school football. And right now I'm coaching first grade basketball for my son's team. I want to talk about level of commitment, right? But when you hear like, well, I'm doing my best, and it's like, well, no, like just do what you're supposed to be doing. Don't worry about doing your best. Like just do what you're supposed to be doing. And you'll see why this is important, why we're doing these drills. But as we get older, I think we can kind of fall into that. Well, I'm working hard. I get up and I'm at work on time every day, but my life still sucks. And it's like, yeah, but what are you working for? Where are you going with this? And so I would imagine also that you probably get a lot of men that come to you that are like, I'm just confused. I make a bunch of money. And that's a big part of the podcast, and why I started it was because there's so many people out there that are doing well as far as, society's standards, right? Like you talked about making a bunch of money, not having fulfillment. So if there's one thing, maybe someone comes to you and is like, Setema, what's the one thing I could do right now? I'm making good money. I've got a good family. I go to church, but there's just like, I feel like I'm not living my calling. Like, is there any exercise or any strategy that you could give them maybe to get that clarity? And I know you talked a lot about that.
Yeah,
but
I would say this. If someone's doing everything that they know, and we call them the checklist, right? They're going to church, they're worshiping, they're exercising, they're taking care of their body, they're dating their spouse, they're doing all the things, but something is missing, then what they need to do, and for us, I tell people, like, come do immersion. And if it's not immersion, I tell people you need to
hold on, what's immersion?
Immersions, that's our program. That's our 4-week program. It's a 3-week virtual buildup. And then it's 4 days down here in Southern California. And it's rigorous, right? It's extremely rigorous. Like we break down a guy, we unwire him, we deprogram him or her, and then we reprogram through, again, the way we do immersion and our teaching and then the experience they have. And the reason why immersion works, and if it's not immersion, I tell people, you got to change. You got to get out of your current environment. You need to have like something that really wakes you up to get to another level. Because no matter what level you're at, even if you're at a high level, you're only at a high level for you. Dude, there's levels beyond levels. Like levels beyond levels. And so anytime I truly believe that when a man or a woman is like, life is amazing and they're just like something's missing, it's because they've hit the top. And now to get to the next level, you got to break out of where you're at, go to different, like go and there's all kinds of seminars and events, but you want to choose the one where you're not surrounded by people like you. Like go to an event where that just like you look like a small little goldfish next to the sharks. For example, like life's amazing for us. And one of my former clients who's now good friends, like, hey, I want you to come to this meeting with me. I think it'd be awesome. So we get into the room and it's a different room, right? You and I, we've been to many similar events. You get into this room, I was like, something's like very different. This is not like a funnel hacking or a mastermind. And the reason why, everyone in the room, hundreds of millions whole different, just, it was so different. I was like, there's a different energy here. Like they talk about millions, like we would talk about hundreds. You get around those people who are G3, G4, generation three, like generational wealth, hundreds of millions, hundreds, different ball game. You want to talk about how it blows open your mind and you start to like, you see possibilities that you never saw before. This is why it's so important that like you listen to your podcast and someone like you've got to get out of your comfort zone. And again, I've even saying this thing, there's so many events today. It's awesome. I think it's great. And you got to pick and choose because you don't want to go to events where you're like, it's the same whole hum stuff being recycled. The same, you want to go to events where you're like, dude, this is the different, this is way, when I was in that room, it really opened my mind. I had never desired to be a billionaire ever. And I was like, oh, I could see why that would be so important for my family to have hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's my goal right now. I just know it opened it up. So you're asking, hey, I would tell people, you need to get around different people. And people are like, well, where do I do that? I'm like, pull out your damn checkbook and you write a freaking check. You go, like, you pay to get into these circles. You pay for the mentors and coaches. You pay for access to those types of things. It's not just, you can't just show up. Like, because if it's free, I'm like, look, if it's free, there's a good chance that that's the caliber of people. Like people who are up to big things, they pay, man.
Yep.
They pay.
Plus, if you don't pay, you're not. Like I know, when I worked with Russell, he used to talk about all the time, those who pay attention. Like there's also some value in paying for something because then it's going to be important to you and you'll actually follow through and pay attention to it.
You got it, man. Those who pay attention. Those who pay show up and play.
Yeah.
And you play way different when your skin is in the game. So that's what I would share with people. It's like I listen to podcasts every day. I have a podcast and I tell people like, there's only so much the podcast or the book can do. And then you got to invest in yourself, and you invest in yourself by putting time, energy, and money. And that's what I tell people, like get around other people, write checks, go to different events, hire the different coaches who would challenge your thinking. And people say, oh, so you hold people accountable. I'm like, that's the lowest level of coaching. Like that's like, if someone needs to be held accountable, I'm like, I'm not your coach, because go get an accountability partner. Coaching, mentoring, different ball game. So that's what I would tell people to answer your questions. You need to get out of your current environment and you need to go and like, you need to get in different circles.
No, I think that's great advice. And that was one of the biggest things that opened up my mind, because I grew up in a tiny town and everybody is very similar and they're great. I love everybody in our town, but you almost kind of get this singular mindset or this singular like purpose, if you will. And then when you get around a whole different set of people who are doing different things, you're like, oh, wow, like there's people doing this stuff. I never even understood that, at one point I never knew internet marketing existed. I didn't know about any of this stuff. I thought I was going to, be a rancher or something when I got older. And then you just get all these different perspectives. And so, no, I totally agree. So what's the thing that you are over the past 4 years of really going out on your own, building this business, impacting, thousands, if not tens of thousands of people or more. What's the thing you're most proud of over the last 4 years?
Man, that's a great question. The thing I'm most proud of over the last 4 years, I'm going to say two things. Is that okay?
Yep.
Number one, that we never gave up. Like people don't, unless you've ever started your own business and ran your own business and grown your own business and faced the natural, like the inevitable forces of opposition, you would never know. And so we've hit those along the last 4 years and we've just weathered the storm, man. Like there's been many nights in my office here, my other office with my wife, I've been on my knees just crying to God, like, God, I need some help, man. Like, can't figure this out. And that's the one thing I'm proud of is like my wife and I, we have, and my team, we've stayed the course. Second thing that I'm proud of is that I've been able to be there for my kids and my wife. I always said this, there's a quote that I love, David O. McKay, no success outside of the home can compensate for failure in the home. And, you know, I've built a great business and we're still building. And I've been able to take my kids to school, go have lunch with them once a month, take them, coach their flag football games, show up to their concerts and show up to their things and sleep with them in their bed and just be with them. Like, these are my boys, play catch almost every day. It's just, that's what I'm proud of. I've been able to go build a business that impacts lives and still impact my family as the way I should, which is live what I teach, show up as a 5-star husband, show up as a 5-star daddy. And I make mistakes and then I just go clean it up. So that's what I'm proud of, man.
And that's what I love about following you on social media is you're posting this stuff. And I know that you're not doing it in a way to be arrogant, or you're not, because I know you always put like, did you invest today? And it's always about with your kids, with your wife. And it's so inspiring. It's so awesome to see you being able to build the business that you're creating. Speaking of which, right? Here he is. But
well, yeah, I mean, my kids get home, they always come give me hugs, man. They always walk in and
love it.
Yeah, thank you. That means a lot to me that, you know, some people are like, oh, Setema is just doing this thing for, I'm like, as you know, social media you document, because every year there's like, a year ago this happened, and I love seeing the progress we've made as a family. I love seeing where my boys were 5 years ago. A memory popped up from 5 years ago and or 6 years ago, and it's crazy. I was taking my oldest to Neaters. There's a place called Neaters in Utah. I took him to breakfast once a week before school. Well, guess what? I do that now. Like, I take him to, I'm like, we're still doing it. We're still doing it, son. So it's way cool, man.
And again, that's what I love, because I see all these people out there, especially maybe it's more so in the internet marketing world. I don't know. It's community I've kind of gotten to know probably more than others, but you see all these people out there trying to change the world, right? They're trying to build these businesses and change the world. But I'm always like, start at home first. You know what I mean? Like, make sure your kids, like, change their life first before you change anybody else's life. Make sure you're starting at home. And I feel terrible. I see these people, you know, they're hustling and they're grinding, but at what point does it also almost become destructive, because you're doing all these things for your children, but yet you're not around your kids? So, like, how does that really benefit them, right?
Bro, I love that, man. That's like, you are speaking my language, my brother. And it is, because you're right. I see the same guys you do, and look at this and look at that and look at this and look at that. But I'm like, all that is for naught. All that is in vain if your kids and your family falls apart.
Yep. And I've read too many wealthy people who have been laying on their deathbed wishing that they'd spent more time with their loved ones. Yes. And so I've always thought, because there was a time when I was first getting into the phone sales stuff, exactly, it's so similar when you were going through talking about all the role playing and learning and this stuff. I remember, you know, I would go in at 8 a.m. I'd be leaving at 9 o'clock at night, calling my brother on the phone, being like, hey, I got this objection. Like, how do you help me? And then it got to a point where I was just like, okay, this isn't sustainable. Working, you know, 6 days a week, 12, 13 hours a day, it's just not sustainable. And then I started thinking, like, once I had kids, it was like, okay, what can I do? Where can I live? Like, all this lifestyle stuff started coming up. And I came to the point, and I do not think that the two are mutually exclusive at all. But I remember thinking, like, I would rather be broke than have to do that, right? Like have to leave home, have to travel a lot. That was kind of part of what, you know, the last company I was with wanted me to start doing. And I was like, you know, like, if there's only two options in this, I'd rather be broken with my kids than be wealthy and be traveling or doing stuff I don't want to do. Like, did you ever have kind of like that A/B?
Yeah, I mean? I've been there, and so I would say the same thing, but I knew deep in my heart, I'm like, okay, I believe that it doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be both.
Yep.
And that's why, again, I love when I hear, like, you got the ranch, you got your kids, and that's for me. I'm like, I built. Here's a little nugget to help all the business owners. Instead of asking, how much money do I want to make? I always start with this. What lifestyle do I want to have? That is the first and foremost question that I ask, because once I know the lifestyle, I can build my team and my automation based on the lifestyle that I want to have. And, you know, meaning, like, I don't I don't want to work for more than 40 hours a week. I don't. I know there's a hustling grind. I'm grinding when you sleep. And I'm like, keep grinding. I'm sleeping, man.
Yeah.
Because we don't get these days back. Like my son's outside playing basketball. We're going to play catch. He's got a game tonight. It's just like, so I believe it's just like you, Derek. I had the same thing. And if you do it right, you don't have to leave your family. Like I was just in Florida from Monday to Wednesday. And then, like we're out tomorrow. Like we're going to be gone for 9 days for Thanksgiving holiday. Like when we go party and vacation and relax, like I go be with my family. And there's a time and a place to travel. There's a time and a season to travel. And there's a time and a place to be with your family. So I love the time I get to coach I build my life around flag football games. I'm like, nope, can't do that one. I've given up, big money to not speak because I coach my son's game. I got to come home and coach. And I love to come home and coach. So you know what I'm saying? It's like, you can do both and you got to be really strategic and really clear.
Yep. Yeah. And that's, again, like, that's why I appreciate you so much. And I know that we got to start wrapping it up. So just a couple of quick questions.
Yeah.
Again, you've gone through all this stuff. What do you see the next, 2 to 5 years? Again, you're still in a relatively new business, I guess.
Yep. Yeah.
So like, where do you see yourself? Like, let's say 5 years from now, what are kind of the next steps for you and within your business and the impact that you're looking to make?
Number one is just increase increase profit.
Yep.
Every business, you start out you're making X amount, you're spending X amount. And so we want to get really strategic. That's why I brought on a CEO. People are like, what? You brought on a CEO and you only make this much? I'm like, yeah. I'm not going to wait until we're super big. Like I want to get to that next level. So I see us increasing profit. Number two, I see us impacting a lot more people, like really reaching the globe. And I mean like other countries and taking this message to the globe, all while still maintaining the lifestyle. And I'd say third is more books coming out and probably, I know this sounds crazy, probably less work. You build your teams and you build your automation and that's what I want. Again, 100 million sounds cool. Like I know one of our good friends, he's going for the billion, right? I'm like, that's not my industry. Like my industry is hearts and souls and like really individual coaching. And I know there's going to come a time where we can scale it up. But for now, it's making sure I can attend basketball games and football games. We can increase our profit and we can be really, really good at what we do. Like just so good at what we do. And I'm excited to reach the globe. Like globe, I'll say it like this. You know who Tony Robbins is, right? Okay, yeah. Some people don't know Tony, right? I'm like, what? Like I see myself more like a new version of Tony, in today's marketplace. And I want to go impact lives and corporations and companies and people and then create real wealth for my family. And I have a responsibility to honor my mom and dad, who came across from the islands to this country. And I want to be able to make sure that I honor their name and the sacrifices they made to be here in a country where they had to learn a new language. And so I got a lot of big, hefty, reasons and holy causes to move me. And I'm really excited. The last 10 years ago, I was bankrupt, I sold my Super Bowl ring. And I can only imagine the next 10 years. There's one of my favorite quotes. It's like, most people overestimate what they can do in a year and they underestimate what they can do in 10. And I look at the last 10 years and really we're just getting started. So yeah.
It's going to be so cool to watch this, like I said, just watching on social media and everything else. And I know that you'll get there. It's a matter of time. Maybe it's a year from now, maybe it's 10 years from now, whenever. Like, I know you'll be out there, similar to Tony Robbins, because you have the passion, you have the desire, I know you're willing to put in the work. So I just can't wait to watch it. A lot of what we talk about on the podcast up to this point is all around kind of liberation, lifestyle, legacy. Those are kind of the three main things that I really like to touch on. And to hit on the last one, because we've talked a lot about kind of liberation, like the mindset that you went through to get to where you are now, the lifestyle that you want to create and that you have created. So really, I guess kind of the last question I have for you today, Setema, is when that day comes around, you're old, maybe even after you're gone, like, what do you want the legacy of Setema Gali to be?
I love this question because I've actually thought about this. That Setema lived his life full out and was a beacon of light and an example of what's possible. I'm the Samoan boy who wasn't very athletic early on, and like we're doing it. And I want people to be able to just look at my life and say, man, that dude, he friggin' loved his wife, he loved his kids, and he loved people, and he loved life, and he's an example of what's possible. So if that dude could do it, I could do it too. And that's what I want it to be.
Perfect. No, I love it. I love it. Well, hey, I want to go ahead and wrap it up. A couple quick things though. Where can people find you? I know that when people are listening to this, they're going to love you. They're going to want to check you out. Where do they go if they want more information on maybe some of your coaching programs or books, or just, being able to get to know you better and be able to follow you and all your content?
Thank you. I appreciate that. If you go to my website, Setema, SETEMAGALI.com, setemagali.com, you'll see all my social media, my Facebook, my YouTube, my Instagram. I've got my podcast called Your Daily Revolution, and that's the best place. Like, every access to what we do is all there. And I just want to say this, thank you, man. I'm so honored to be on your podcast. I'm so honored and happy to see you doing what you're doing. I remember meeting you for the first time up there in Idaho, and you're doing your thing and I'm doing my thing. And so I'm excited, not just for me, but man, I'm excited for you, man, for what you're doing, what you're building, and being the family man you are. So thank you. I'm so honored. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I do, man. I think the world of you, and I can't wait to get this content out there. It's going to be awesome. I know people are going to love it. They're going to love you, love following you. And so I can't wait. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Again, Setema, thank you so much. I know you guys, I know you're all going to love this episode. Make sure you hit up Setema, check him out on social media, check out his website, and there's always tons of content. So again, thanks again, my friend.
Thank you so much.
See you all.